Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Really excited to have Danny Williams with us. He is the lead maintainer for React Native Storybook. As of today on NPM, it looks like it's about over 300,000 weekly downloads. I myself have used Storybook like in React projects, and so I thought we could start, Danny, a quick intro for yourself, and just for everyone that's new to the project, maybe talk a little bit about React Native Storybook and the Storybook project as a whole.
I'm Danny, and I live in Porto, but originally grew up in the UK, half Brazilian as well. Yeah, Storybook is it's a really cool project. It's a lot bigger on the web, but we've brought it to React Native as well, and it's growing all the time. But it's basically like a library for your components, which is specifically like really useful if you're building like a design system and you want to be able to develop it separately from your app. Because it's really difficult if you want to like develop some form elements or something, and then you have to go through your whole app to get to the settings page. You know, you have to be logged in, all this stuff. You can use this thing called controls, where you can change the value of the properties and like live in like real time see what it looks like if, let's say, the input is disabled or maybe there's an error, and then you can show what it would look like in all those different scenarios. And then because we've got like fast refresh, you can just like make a change and then you see it again with the same props. And if you create these like predefined like variants of your components, and we call stories, that's why it's got like a storybook, because you've got a book of all your like variants of your components, which is the storybook, right? And so from there, you can see all these different variants and quickly see how your changes will affect them. And then you can bring it up on all your different devices now that we have React Native support, which we've had for a while now. But yeah, you can see it on all the different devices now. Recently, getting it to work on things like React Native macOS and Windows.
And I would imagine feeling confident in your design system, making sure it's working across your apps and websites is even more important with React Native, where the form factor is different. I'm assuming you're handling things like screen resolution, screen perspective. What are some of the factors that, when you're building a design system, teams might not realize is challenging or exciting with building for React Native?
Yeah, I think it's just the subtle differences, you know, between the different platforms. And even though we have like a sort of generic base between everything, we've got the React Native views to bring across all the different places. Sometimes they don't like work the same. That's sort of the advantage you get by using React Native Storybook, is you can really see like, how does this behave when I have it on iOS and I have it on Android, and you have it in your hand, and you can really like test it out, right? And this is the specific thing with the input is something I've experienced. Specifically to React Native, it's that interaction going from React to the native underneath, where like those things can be different, and they have to be different.
So what would you say to anyone that is new to React Native, that hasn't built cross-platform? What are some of the reasons that you chose to build with React Native across devices?
It really depends on sort of your scale and your like timelines, everything like that, like the classic sort of, we have to get this shipped, you know. And if you're shipping for, I don't know, 3 platforms, and you're going to rebuild your app 3 different times, it's never going to be shipped with the same speed that you could if you could just do it all once and it just works everywhere. I mean, of course, it's inherently sort of impossible to just have it all immediately work perfectly across every platform, but you manage to get it there in a lot less time than you would if you had to write it like 3 times, like duplicated work, you know? And that's kind of the bane of any developer, is having to redo the same work over and over again, right?
Right.
But you could just reuse it. And I think that's the advantage. And I think that the gap between native and React Native is always shrinking. So it just gets more and more advantageous to use React Native, for sure.
So React Native Storybook, like I mentioned, 300,000 weekly downloads. Right now, it looks like you're on version 9.1.1. In the entirety that you've been working on this project, what would you say are some of the features or updates that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple. Especially like version 6 was a huge milestone, because, you know, when I joined the project, we were on 5.3. Initially, going from like 5.3 to 6 was a big milestone for me, because it's kind of like going from just like not understanding anything about Storybook to then, you know, bringing out this new version that changed a lot of the internals, of how it works. And in version 6 specifically was a version of Storybook where they came out with these different formats for writing stories and a different configuration syntax. And it's all like a lot simpler to use. And so going from like 5 to 6, you're then able to like copy the same way that it works on the web. But since then also there's been bigger changes as well. Like version 8, we redid the whole UI. And now it's a lot more similar to how the Storybook looks on the web, especially if you go to the mobile like version of the web. If you like just shrink your window a bit, you'll see that it looks almost the same, and that's because of the effort we did in that version. A lot of the journey has been just trying to get up to speed to the web version, and what's great about version 9 is we were able to release at the same time as the web version. Another one is the require context API, which we introduced. Well, I didn't introduce it, but I made use of it. And that basically gave us the ability to automatically detect the new stories that you add. And that's something that you couldn't do before. So for me, that was like personally a big milestone as well, because it was one of those issues I had with React Native Storybook, which I find it really annoying to just have to go and manually import every single file to make sure that it shows up in my Storybook. And now you don't have to do that anymore.
So I guess forward looking, what are you excited about along the horizon? And then related, how can folks that want to try out React Native Storybook, how would you like them to contribute? How would you like them to support? What would be helpful for the future of the project?
The main thing I think with open source development and contributing is, I think you want to look at it from the perspective of like, what problems do I have that I understand well, that I can then help fix for the project. And it's always like, that's how I got involved. And I think that's kind of the best way, where you're solving your own problem and you really understand it. And then sometimes as a maintainer, I don't understand your problem because I've not experienced it. And so if you have something like that where you see an area where we could improve and you come along, make an issue, maybe say that you're willing to contribute, and more than happy to receive contributions for sure. And the community growing is always a great thing because there's more people to swap ideas and kind of help us grow in the right direction, because we want to know as well, like, what do people want from React Native Storybook?
And are those community conversations happening in GitHub discussions? Is it on Discord? Where can folks kind of get involved in the community for React Native Storybook?
Yeah, I think the most direct one is to use GitHub and either discussions or in the issues, or Discord as well. So Storybook has its own Discord, and everyone's able to join. And in there, we have a React Native channel where I'm always responding to anything that people ask in there. So yeah, it's one of the things I really try to do is like respond to every question I can.
Does React Native Storybook have like a GitHub sponsors page or open collective? If a company is using the project and would love to support it, where can they do that?
There is both an open collective and I have a sponsors page.
Okay.
So with the open collective, it's more like just the overall Storybook, but if you want to more directly support React Native Storybook, it's really, if you could sponsor me, I'd be super happy about it, and that gives me the room to spend more time on React Native Storybook.
So last question, so for any developers that are curious about contributing to open source projects or considering launching their own, what would an earlier version of Danny, what advice would you give them?
I think one thing that I really discovered is that you have to kind of get over a fear of asking for help. Like for me, I mentioned that with version 6, it took me a long time, and I was kind of struggling to get that version out because I didn't really know what direction to go, how to use certain APIs, and what really got me over that hump was just asking some of the other Storybook maintainers and being like, hey, look, I'm kind of stuck here. No problem.
So React Native Storybook, version 9 currently, over 1 million downloads a month. I just really thank you for what you're building, and I'm super excited to see the future of the project.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, man.